There's an interesting question thrown at me when we did the live stream. Was it in the live stream or was it in a video? Actually, probably in a video. Somebody said, why haven't the Washington Capitals ever won the Stanley Cup? Now, I wasn't around for when they started. So, when they were really appallingly bad, I didn't watch hockey. So that would be from 74. I didn't start watching hockey until 81. They'd got all the really bad seasons out of the way by then. They were iffy in 81, 82, and then 82, 83. They were suddenly third in the Patrick division. This was with Dennis Marouk leading the charge. So third, second, first, third, second. And even with all of those seasons, so from 83 to 93, every year they were either second, third, or even first in the division, and they couldn't get out of the second round. They were in the same division as the Islanders. Then they were in the same division as the Rangers, the Devils, the Penguins later on. The Capitals' issue, a lot of it I think has to do with geography. They always seem to have a really, really challenging opponent in the first or second round. There are teams who've made it to a conference championship, like the third round, without a whole lot of a challenge, without facing a contending team. Washington has always been in a tough division, whether it was the Patrick in the 80s, right up until now with the Metro, or any of the division names in between. There was that brief period where they were in the Southeast with Atlanta and Tampa and Florida and Carolina, and you'd think, okay, well, back then, and in 98 they made the Stanley Cup final, but even then they had to deal with Tampa became dominant, Carolina got on a nice hot streak. In fact, with Carolina, they seem to be a team that, if they make the playoffs, they do really, really well. Whereas Washington always seems to underachieve. They've gone through a lot of coaches. Let's just take a look here, because I know there's been a lot. Barry Trotz is just the latest. Coaching history. Jim Anderson, Red Sullivan, and Milt Schmidt their first year, and then Milt Schmidt and Tom McVie the second year. Tom McVie for 2 years. Danny Belial. I wanted to say Balsillie, and then I got thrown off. And then Danny Belial and Gary Green in 79-80. Gary Green in 80-81. Gary Green, Roger Crozier, and Brian Murray in 81-82. Brian Murray from 82-83 to 88-89. Then Brian Murray and Terry Murray, 89-90. Terry Murray from 90-91 to 92-93. Terry Murray and Jim Schoenfeld, 93-94. Schoenfeld from 94-95 to 96-97. Famously, Ron Wilson from 97-98 to 2001-2002. Bruce Cassidy for 2002-2003. It was at the end of the year. He had that year, and then at the start of the next season, he got fired for Glenn Hanlon. Glenn Hanlon lasted a couple years. He gets let go during his third year. Bruce Boudreau takes over. Boudreau's the coach for 3 years, and then he loses the job to Dale Hunter. Dale Hunter doesn't last a full year. Adam Oates takes over. He lasts 2 years, and that brings us to Barry Trotz. It doesn't help. And when you look at that coaching history, you don't see a Scotty Bowman in there. Boudreau's kind of the biggest name in there. Some good players, like Adam Oates was a fantastic player, and he's a good hockey mind. I've seen him, on panels and discussing hockey, and he's a very smart guy. Didn't last very long as a coach. Washington's had good goaltending, whether it was Mike Liut, Don Beaupre, right through to Ole Kolzig, and now Braden Holtby. They've always managed to have a sniper when they've been good. The aforementioned Dennis Marouk, Peter Bonder's era, and now Ovechkin's. It's the it factor. Washington's always been able to put together good seasons. Like they've got 10 100-point seasons in their history, and that's including the fact that the first 7 years of that history, 8 years of that history, they were terrible. There's something you can't coach. There's something you can't teach. There's something that you can't account for. It's the it factor. And I don't know the formula myself. If I did, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you people. I'd be behind a bench or making some decisions up top, because and this is part of the reason why when you start talking about generational players versus franchise players, there's all kinds of arguments, because we all see things differently. But Washington has never had that intimidation. Pittsburgh has that right now. I've watched times where even Philly had that during the Legion of Doom era. There was a feeling of, oh God, we're playing the Flyers, who's going to get hurt? The Devils certainly had that with during the Scott Stevens era. The Oilers would just run you out of town in the 80s, and that was after the Islanders would beat the hell out of you and run you out of town at the same time. The Penguins with Lemieux in the early 90s were scary to deal with. And right up to modern day, where you've got the Hawks, who have been and will be, I think for at least a couple of more years, fantastic contenders and champions in their own right. And they have a certain swagger and a certain feel with them. And the Kings, the 2 out of 3 championships, and they're not that far removed from those championships, and they've still got a lot of key pieces. I'm looking at you, Drew Doughty, and I'm looking at you, Jonathan Quick, that makes you say, you know what, they've still got that certain factor that might get them to another championship. The Capitals don't have that. And again, you can't coach it. You can have a bad coach that holds the team back. Like when people look at Scotty Bowman's record and they say, oh, well, he had all these cup rings, but look, he was in Montreal and then he was in Detroit, and of course he's going to have all these cup rings. Then why doesn't everybody else? If what Bowman did was easy, there'd be other coaches who have all kinds of cup rings and just, I just go wherever the championships are going. The championships go there because of 2 reasons. That factor, that certain thing that makes a champion, or the way that whole organization has structured everything, including the coach. Washington hasn't really had that either. I think Washington envisioned themselves this past spring as finally being ready. I think they felt that they had everything in place to compete and win a Stanley Cup. The 2017 elimination is the hardest one of them all. And I was a witness to 98 when they lost in the final and Detroit wiped them out. That one hurt more, but they didn't go all in on that championship. That championship was kind of a surprise run. In 97, 98, they were a team that had missed the playoffs the year before and then missed the playoffs the year after, and they were 4th in the East that year. So nobody expected it. They were underdogs. And there's been some talk about, well, maybe Washington will be better off as underdogs. Even the underdogs, like, it's been mentioned in the video I did yesterday about the Kings. They were a number 8 seed that won the Stanley Cup. Yeah. But they had it. It doesn't matter what seed you are. When you start that run, you have that momentum, and the right players are hot, and the coach is making the right decisions, you don't get stopped. So it's impressive that an 8 seed wins the Stanley Cup. Absolutely. But there are other factors than just, well, they were 8 seeds, they shouldn't have won it. No, they were full value for that win. And it's the reason why going into this past season, I said the Capitals shouldn't be worried about the President's Trophy. They shouldn't win that this year. And then they did. And I got nervous when I saw them cruise into the President's Trophy. I thought, geez, you're using up all your energy during the regular season. And whether that's true or isn't, you look at the President's Trophy record over the last 10 years, and it's not great. The President's Trophy winner does not have a great record in the playoffs. It's that it factor. This isn't about Ovechkin either. Not really. And people are going to take this and go, oh, Shannon's just saying Ovechkin's not good enough. No, I'm not saying that at all. Who's the stud on the blue line? Who's that number 1 guy on the blue line that they can count on? And you can't give me Kevin Shattenkirk, because Shattenkirk's never done it. they need that horse on the blue line that I don't know if they've had. I mean, Gonchar had some really great seasons. Certainly Mike Green had some very good offensive seasons. But I'm talking a Ray Bourque type defenseman here. I am talking a Drew Doughty type defenseman. And just going on a run at the right time. Washington always seems to get cold at the absolute worst time of the year. And they have no puck luck. There's just... For Washington to get out of this, because the question comes up, well, how's Washington ever going to win a Stanley Cup? I don't have that answer. I want them to. I desperately want OV to hold up a Stanley Cup championship before he retires. But to this date, that it factor that champions have, even Carolina back in 2006 had that. With guys like Doug Weight and Mike Recchi, they had it. They absolutely had it. And once they got past Montreal in that first round, they knew. I still didn't believe in them after that first round, but they quickly proved me wrong. They proved a lot of people wrong. The Capitals have to prove a lot of people wrong. And whether it's getting the right rental at the deadline, whether it's finding a way to pry a number one defenseman somehow, some way from someone, and still manage to stay under the cap and field a competitive team, like, this is a tough task. I do not envy any GM of the Washington Capitals over the last 30 years. The Capitals have always been really, really, really good. But in a 7-game series against the same team, that's when the cracks start to show. That's when the team with the it factor usually wins. That's why a lot of the time I'm cheering for underdogs, and teams I cheer for do not have a good record in Game 7s. They just don't. Because the underdog usually loses a Game 7. Part of the reason that the Kings in 2012, it was so impressive what they did, because they didn't give the home team a chance to recover. They just finish it off in 4. Or make sure they finished it off in 5 before the team had a feel that, oh, we're still in this series. Washington has never had that. Washington blows those 3-1 series leads like crazy. And you can't do that. And whether it's losing the series outright or just having a 3-1 lead and then going to 7, you can't do that. And really, really good teams very rarely do that. So let me know what you guys think in the comments section below, because it's a topic that's worth discussing right now, because Ovechkin is going into another season with a team that's really been stripped down in the offseason, and there is some talk maybe they'll be better off as underdogs. And I hope that's true. I genuinely hope it's true. I've got 5 Capitals jerseys now. I'm all set for the season. So let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. And is this going to be another series? Maybe. It might be. It might be something worth looking at, because I can think of a few teams that have never won a Stanley Cup. And when you see books like this, I got this for cheap locally, and it's sad, because this greatest moment for the Canucks, that's against Minnesota. Minnesota came back and won that series. The fact this is on the cover, I mean, it's a great picture. It says a lot about the Vancouver Canucks organization. So believe me, Washington Capitals fans, I feel your pain. And I hope that pain is eased soon. Maybe Vancouver and Washington need to meet in the final. And then figure it out from there. That may be the only way either one of them wins a Stanley Cup. All kidding aside, I do hope that we see a new champion this year. Somebody who has never won a Stanley Cup before, because that's always fun. And you guys let me know what you think. Till then, thanks for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.